After the raging success of the Dark Pictures anthology, Supermassive Games has come out with another cinematic horror experience, The Quarry. Though it was Until Dawn that put the developers on the map, people are raving about the new devotion to the slasher horror film genre. It may not be a traditional video game, but it's definitely living up to the hype, and we're here to tell you why. First up, Origins. Developer Supermassive Games broke out into the video game mainstream with its take on interactive supernatural horror in 2015 with Until Dawn. Until Dawn sought to bring a classic horror movie trope of a cabin in the woods to the interactive medium of video games. It wasn't the first to do horror in a game, but it was the first to deliver an interactive experience that can definitely be described by the term cinematic. You see, Until Dawn didn't make use of classic video game mechanics like a character-centered camera or special shooting or movement mechanics. The actual gameplay was very simple, and it didn't take much to get into. And that's really part of why it became so big. Literally anyone could pick up a controller and figure out how to play. Apart from quick-time button mashing events, the only thing players needed to be concerned about was making quick decisions. The draw here wasn't a high score or completing a challenging task, it was the plot and the ways that the plot could branch out. Therein lies the core of Supermassive's design ideology, player choice, and branching paths and plot lines. Since Until Dawn, every single game Supermassive has put out is based around that concept, that if you make different choices, you're going to have different outcomes, and The Quarry is no exception. Now, player agency. As we've glanced over before, Supermassive has put out a number of games between Until Dawn and The Quarry, and they've all got the same DNA. There are a cast of characters, each with their own interpersonal relationships and traits, that find themselves in a classic horror movie scenario. Every game is a chance to put yourself in the shoes of a classic horror movie character and make decisions that you would otherwise have to shout at your TV screen to no avail for. How many times have you watched a horror movie where the main character is locked in a house with some sort of evil entity? How many times do you see the character being beckoned into a dark basement, at which point you shout, "That's a terrible idea"? Well, with Supermassive Games, you actually have the ability to say no to the creepy thing in the basement. Of course, there are only so many things you can account for in a video game, so there are bound to be things that you wish you could do that just aren't options available in the game. However, the games do a decent job of offering the right tools and plot options that players will most likely gravitate towards. It's not perfect, but it definitely beats not having any choice at all when a character in the movie does something really stupid. What's special about The Quarry? So, what we've spoken about so far regarding The Quarry are things that you could already experience in Until Dawn and Supermassive's Man of Medan anthology series. What makes The Quarry different? Well, for one, the story allows players to live out another classic horror fantasy, the Camp of Horrors. Think Friday the 13th, but with a twist. In the story of The Quarry, the characters you can play are all camp counselors that are held back at camp an extra day because of one individual's terrible decisions. Unfortunately for the counselors and other characters in the camp, when the sun goes down, some undesirables show up. Those undesirables are, of course, supernatural beings hell-bent on tearing up the humans that still remain at the camp. And apart from the creatures, there's also the added threat of some mysterious hunters that chase the counselors. The Quarry isn't just another of the same experiences. It's a culmination of everything that Supermassive has learned in the past 7 years. They've taken feedback from players throughout their previous interactive horror games and have refined their mechanics to keep exactly what made their previous games fun. Gone are the tedious quick-time events that had you mashing random buttons that could cheaply cost you the life of your favorite character. Now, the game is heavily focused on decision-making that is responsible for the fates of your characters. Another improvement is in the passive storytelling that occurs within the game world. Instead of majority of information about the character's circumstances being fed through narration, you gotta find clues littered throughout the world that give you hints to the broader story. It's a tool that they've constructed using a mechanic implemented back in Until Dawn. In Until Dawn, you had instances where you found totems that gave you guidance as to which paths could lead you to which plot developments. There was little in the way of good environmental storytelling. Now, though, such plot hints exist in a different form. You have a much richer world that subtly hints at what's going on through in-game odd items and documents that you find along your journey. Next, celebrity cameos. This might seem a little bit like cheating, but celebrities can make or break any piece of entertainment. A mediocre film with heavy hitters like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt can be significantly elevated beyond its actual worth. In the same way, a game that isn't necessarily the best can be elevated by a good cast of CGI imported characters and their mocap performances. That isn't to say that the game is mediocre, but the fact that it has such a stellar cast means that it's made all the better. Supermassive have used noticeable faces in their games since Until Dawn, which had a cast consisting of Hayden Panettiere, Rami Malek, and Brett Dalton. But the Quarry really pushes their casting far beyond anything we've seen from the developers so far. For one, they've actually managed to get David Arquette on board as a cop. For horror fans out there, that might have actually been all it took for them to buy the game. David Arquette played the cop in the classic horror movie Scream. Scream's been a horror movie staple for fans of the genre around the world, and it's been a major inspiration for slasher flicks that have come out since. So, having David Arquette on board just gives the game a sort of authenticity that they couldn't have had otherwise. And then you got the rest of the cast, like Brenda Song and Ted Raimi. Here again, Ted Raimi happens to be another major name in the horror movie world. If you know the Evil Dead series, then you know Ted Raimi. And just like David Arquette, Raimi gives the game a sort of oomph that puts it on par with horror films in a way that the previous Supermassive games just haven't been able to pull off. Now, environment and direction. The design team at Supermassive Games really outdid themselves here with this latest entry. They've taken everything they've learned about lighting and direction from the previous games and pushed everything to 11. None of their games have ever looked so good. And it might also be some of the best looking content out there from this current console generation, period. From the lighting on the cabins during the day to the eerie darkness that shows you just enough to get you to move while keeping you spooked, the designers knew exactly what they wanted to make you feel and how they could do it. And when it comes to camera and character direction, it's definitely the best it's ever been in games like this. As always, you have that static camera that lightly pans across the scene as your characters move. However, the angles and the perspective that the camera placement gives you is almost perfect. They give you just enough information to keep you engaged in moving through the scenes, while also keeping you on your toes and providing ample space for spooktacular events to unfold. More than a movie. If you love movies that have twists and turns to keep you guessing, you're going to love The Quarry. Unlike a movie though, once you've played the game, you can play it a second time and still not know what to expect. That's because of player choice. We mentioned earlier that that was the core of Supermassive's interactive horror games, but we should probably explain what it means in this context. You see, for a lot of games, player choice just means that you get different options of different paths to get the same old ending. In the Quarry's case, decisions you make can result in different characters dying and living by the end of the game. You can end the game with all the characters alive, or all of them dead. In fact, the developers claim that there are around 186 endings in total. That sounds ridiculous, but considering that there are a number of different ways each individual character can die, we're really not that surprised. That amount of content means a lot more replayability, which is why a lot of people are so invested in the game right now, and why they probably will be for a while. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on The Quarry? Let us know in the comment section below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. I'll see you in the next one.